What's happening, peeps? Welcome to another episode of Double Take with the Sayf Bros. I'm Alex Sayf, here as always with my brother John, not Jonathan, Johnny Boy Sayf.
What's happening?
And today we've got a great episode planned. There's been a lot of great games, John, between the NBA playoffs, the start of the NFL season.
Well, Alex, according to Skip
great.
Bayless, he said this was one of the best days of sports ever, which was yesterday on Sunday with all the NFL and LeBron.
Skip. So, that being said, we got a lot of great topics to get to today. Later on in the show, we are going to break down the unfortunate Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And we of course, we didn't like to see as Heat fans. The Celtics stormed back and they finally won a game. Then we're also going to give some predictions for Game 4, which is on Wednesday. We're going to touch on the multitude of injuries that we saw in the NFL this weekend as we talk fantasy corner.
Very unfortunate.
Very, hate to see it as always. And we will wrap up the episode with our safe bets of the week, John. But first, what's the first topic we're going to open with today?
Alex, last night, Game 2, it was difficult to watch for those people who were watching the Seahawks-Patriots game. However, there was an NBA game going on in the bubble, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Anthony Davis ends the game off with that game-winning three to put the Lakers up in the series 2-0. Alex, what did you make of Davis's game-winning three before we get into the rest of the series and if we think Denver can come? What did you think of the shot?
A lot of things going on here, John. My first reaction was... As I was watching it, I was surprised because I was looking at LeBron when I was watching that play, and I was only looking at LeBron.
Yeah, I was too.
He didn't even move. Davis runs through. He basically stays with Grant, and I also thought the Lakers would try to get in the paint, which I'm sure most people would. So I guess it was a little bit sneaky that they ended up shooting a three. Maybe that caught the Nuggets off guard. But then once I watched the replay a few times, my ultimate takeaway is great shot by Davis. It's of course it's clutch. It's something that he has not always been able to say throughout his career, but it's a clutch shot in a big game, maybe the biggest shot of his career. That's what Rondo said is the biggest shot of his life so far.
For sure.
But I think, like I said, my ultimate takeaway is actually that it was a defensive miscommunication by the Nuggets, and they really screwed up. You saw at the end there. They put Mason Plumlee in. He had been on the bench for a while. They put him in to guard Davis because it's a better defensive lineup. They have Jokic guarding the inbound pass, given that Jokic is a long defender. Some people were saying, "Oh, why didn't they have Bol in the game?" Which we saw Taco do it. Yeah. Kyle Lowry to make that pass against the Celtics against Taco. Yeah. But anyway, so they have Jokic on Rondo, and so the miscommunication is. I'm very confused. I don't know why Mason Plumlee, you can see if you watch the replay, he stops as he gets towards, LeBron is standing at the elbow, just kind of facing Rondo, and Jeremy Grant's between Rondo and LeBron. Davis, traces a three-point arc, and Mason Plumlee stops around where LeBron and Grant
He just ran right into LeBron and stayed there.
Yeah, and he
double-teamed LeBron.
You could tell he was looking like he wanted Grant to switch. Which I was confused by because the only reason it would make sense to switch is if LeBron sets a screen. And he definitely didn't. LeBron did not set a screen.
LeBron was in the way, sort of.
No, he really wasn't.
Yeah.
Mason Plumlee kind of just stopped running.
Yeah.
And so Davis gets a good look. Jokic actually did get a very, very solid contest on the ball, which, it's impressive for
He got from the inbound.
Exactly.
He was guarding the inbound pass all the way to the wing to guard Anthony Davis' three.
Of course, watching that three, Anthony Davis has such a nice stroke, and he's just too big. It's one of those things, he's 6'11", he's 7 foot. And he's going to get a shot off over anyone, especially Jokic, because Jokic is, not the greatest defender. But Plumlee, watching that play again and again, I'm like thinking, Plumlee plays better defense, and I don't think Davis makes that shot. It looks now it's 1-1. So
it looks like Plumlee almost, and I'm sure Mike Malone said this in the huddle, be on the lookout for LeBron. We think he could obviously shoot it. Anthony Davis could obviously shoot it as well. But it's almost
they didn't call a timeout, Sean.
No, I'm saying before. The Lakers called it with 20 seconds left. The Lakers called a timeout. The ball goes out of bounds, obviously, with 2 seconds left. They have that inbound pass, 2 seconds left, and that's what scored. Mm-hmm. Because you know what play with 2 seconds left I was thinking about was game, I want to say 1 or 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It was game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2013. Against the Indiana Pacers. The Heat with 2.2 seconds left. We were down, and what happened? We had LeBron start at the elbow, actually, or top of the key maybe, around up there. He cuts down.
But Battier was inbounding from the sideline, not the baseline. So it was a little bit different.
LeBron catches the ball, I think maybe one or two dribbles, left-handed layup. And that's what you're thinking they're going to do. But you see the lineup that Denver put in.
Denver had a big lineup. And
Denver
that
put
was
in
the thing the
four
Pacers
big men.
The Pacers had Hibbert out of the game, which is like, that's what everyone was saying the next day. Oh, why did they take out Hibbert?
Right.
That's why LeBron was
It opened it up. He beat Paul George.
But what the Nuggets did is they have a huge lineup. You know, they have Plumlee in the game. They have Grant in the game. They have
Millsap.
Millsap, and they have Jokic.
Yeah, it's like
and then Murray was the only other guy.
2 power forwards and 2 centers, pretty much. No, Murray wasn't in there either.
Oh,
it was Torrey Craig.
Okay.
So what happened here, now just to push back on you, Alex, a little bit. I'm not going to go Paul George on this. I'm not calling this a bad shot, but that's not the best.
It's an excellent shot.
No, let me finish.
Wide open.
I'm not going to be Paul George and say this is it's a bad shot the way he called Damian's, half court, basically his logo game-winning shot in 2019 against OKC, a bad shot. But I'm going to say this is not the best possible shot for the Lakers because they needed any bucket. You're down 1 point, right? So they can get you drive, take it to the hole, you get fouled, a free throw, you get overtime, right? You're just trying to extend this game if you can. So they needed 1 point. Or with 2 seconds left, you expect LeBron or Anthony
down 1
Davis.
Point. They're only down 1 point.
Right.
Yeah, so if you get fouled, you win the game. You don't have to go to overtime.
No, if you miss a free throw, I'm saying. At the worst case scenario, you get 1 free throw.
Sure.
So I'm saying you're trying to get any point you can. At the same time, you're also trying to get the quickest, bucket. So in the paint, LeBron and Anthony Davis try a close shot. They can get their 2 points, or worst case scenario, they draw a foul. They make both free throws and win the game, like you said, or they miss one and make one, and he gets overtime. But instead, having your 7-footer shoot a 3-pointer, then it's definitely not the best option. But for that reason, because Denver thought that, because Denver knew it wasn't the best option, because Denver put those huge guys in, they were more worried about, instead of chasing guys on the perimeter, they were more worried about clogging the paint.
I'm sure.
And because of that, it ended up being a genius play call for the Lakers, and having LeBron there as the decoy, it was great. But at the same time, in the same breath, I want to say, if Anthony Davis misses that shot, we're not talking about this in the same way. We're talking about how the series is 1-1, how the Nuggets are going to go down 3-1 and come back again, how the Nuggets are going to make this a series, and how LeBron needs to shoot that shot because Anthony Davis isn't ready for this moment yet, Yeah, so one missed shot,
of course, I'm sure the
narrative.
Nuggets were more concerned about packing the paint, but you gave Davis. I don't care if you said they gave the 7-footer. That's a 7-footer shooting a 3-pointer. I don't care. It's Anthony Davis. And he just, by the way, Anthony Davis. A reason why I do think that it made more sense to go to Davis than LeBron is LeBron was hot in the first quarter. I think he scored the first 12 points for them, but Davis ended up scoring the last 9. Davis had a step back 3-pointer with 3 minutes left, and then they go on that huge.
It was 192.
Yeah, it was 192.
Lakers were up 8,
and then
with 3 minutes.
Of course, the Nuggets come back. Davis ends up hitting a floater. Jokic comes in, has a little hook shot, and now the Lakers have the ball again. And Davis hits that 3. So yeah, would you rather get a closer shot? Of course, you only need to win by 1 point. You're only down 1, but you left Davis wide open. That's a huge screw up.
But again, if that shot is missed, and that's just the thing about basketball. That's what I think is so fun about this. It's the same way that the Nuggets are somehow they're in the Western Conference Finals for coming back from down 3-1 in 2 series in a row. If Mike Conley's 3 at the end of Game 7 against the Jazz, the Jazz Nuggets game, if Mike Conley's 3 goes in, this is all not even happening, So that's what people always say. It's a make or miss league, and that one shot would change everything.
And one thing I do want to say about this Denver team is they've been so fun to watch, and going in, it's not like you necessarily thought, oh yeah, this team with Jokic, who isn't as maybe flashy or as fun as LeBron or Davis or Kawhi or those other teams, or Damian Lillard even, and now this team has become so fun just because they never give up. They're so resilient. They've of course, we know they've come back from 3-1 twice in a row, but game to game, there's no quit. I mean, they were down 15 points and I think 19 points in games 5 and 6 versus the Clippers. Last night they were down 16 points in game 2 versus the Lakers,
and they came back. We're up 1 with 2 seconds left.
They come back. And we thought it was all right. Well, of course it's gonna be. It's always one of those things. You look at the game. You're not paying as much attention. It's like, all right, it's gonna be a blowout. And then before we know it, it's
an 8-point game.
The Nuggets came back. Easy money. So I'm really interested, John. What do you think? The Lakers are now up 2-0, which that would mean the Nuggets would need to win 4 out of the next 5 games to win the series. But do you think that they can make it competitive? What do you foresee happening over the next few games? Who's winning and how many games?
There's 2 things. There's first, it's who Denver is, and then second, I want to talk about who the Lakers are. One, who Denver is, we've seen what they can do, like you talked about. They're very resilient. They've come back and won 3 straight games in 2 series in a row. Games 5, 6, and 7 in both of those series. In the first round series against Utah and in the second round against the Clippers, they did it both times. But what they also did in both of those series was they either won game 1 or game 2. So I think this is going to be potentially hurtful. They haven't won games 3 or 4 in the other series. I'm not saying that they're going to get swept right now or anything. I could still see them coming out, winning game 3 after the Lakers might be a little complacent. But what I am saying is that I think for Denver to have to win this series to pull off the upset, which of course is a huge upset against this Laker team that everyone now is saying is, might as well give them a championship now. But I do believe that it hurts them that they didn't win game 1 or 2, and I do think the series is over now. I do think they can win.
What do you think that you said they had to do something for them to make the comeback? What do they have to do?
Well, I mean, listen, they got to win 4 out of the next 5 games. So you ask, how are they going to be able to pull that off? And I just do not think, with Anthony Davis and LeBron the way they are, I don't think they can. Yes, we've seen them win 3 straight games in the past 2 series. But against this Laker team, the Lakers are different. They aren't the Clippers. They have LeBron who's hungry. And now we see they have their second guy who's hungry. Kawhi, when Kawhi was showing up in that first round series against Dallas, we saw that he was dropping 35, but Luka was still there and dragging the Mavericks to keep those games close. But he needed his second guy, Paul George, to be there. We didn't see that with that Clippers team, and we didn't see it last series, and that's why Denver was able to come back. We're gonna see it here in this series now. LeBron's there, that's the number 1 guy, and the number 2 guy is there as well. And because of that, I do not think they're going to be able to come back. And can they steal 1 or 2 games? I wouldn't be shocked if they won game 3 and then game 5, but I do not think this is going to go past 6.
Yeah, another quick point about the Lakers before we move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think this shot is huge for Davis because it's going to build his confidence, like without a doubt. It's something that with both game 1s, the Lakers losing in the first 2 rounds, and it was one of those things where, LeBron's trying to make sure his guys are getting into a rhythm because he's going to need them for this playoff run, and so he doesn't care if he has to lose a game. Like, that's why I think maybe LeBron, if you asked him who has a better chance of making a shot, maybe he would think, yeah, maybe I should shoot the last shot. But given that Davis is, of course, a very talented player, and also let me give Davis the shot and give him this confidence in this huge moment. And you saw him after the game in the the post-game interview saying, I want these moments. I want this for my legacy. Of course, there's a lot of pressure on it because it's in the playoffs. It's to win the game. But guess what? That's what I want. I want that. And I do think this will be a lot to build his confidence.
For sure. And definitely after seeing that shot, I thought of a shot earlier in the regular season where Davis missed a similar game-winning shot, and everyone said, why is LeBron not shooting that? Davis isn't the man yet. He can't make the shot, whatever. And I went and looked it up. It was against the Nets right before before Corona happened, and obviously the season was suspended. But I remember the same shot. So it's awesome to see Davis in that same spot in the playoffs. This is a huge game. If the series is 1-1, it's a lot different because the Lakers' mindset going into 3 and 4 is like, we need to win both these games, because if it's 2-2, then the Nuggets, we've seen them do it before, push the game to 7 and win the series to 7 and win it. So they definitely need to win this one. So it was a huge shot for Davis to hit, and like you said, building his confidence going into the NBA Finals.
All right, John. Let's move on to the Eastern Conference Finals now. So, of course, to our disappointment, we hated to see that performance that the Heat put up in Game 3 versus the Celtics. The Celtics came out they played extremely well. But I guess so now the series, John, it's 2-1. Do you think the Heat should be worried? As a Heat fan, should I be panicking? What would your advice, or what should you tell Heat Nation? Gordon Hayward's back. Is he going to be the difference maker? So what would you say?
The first to answer the question, should the Heat be worried? No, definitely not. We're down 2-1 in the conference finals. Just think, I'm sorry, we are up. We're not. See, that's what I'm saying. Even me, they won that game, and I feel like Heat Twitter was a little bit in a panic about it because of the way that we started off in each of those games down. We came back in Game 1, we came back in Game 2, and we won it. In Game 3, we nearly completed the comeback. We didn't get it done. But no, the Heat shouldn't be worried. There's been a deficiency of adversity this postseason for the Miami Heat. They're the underdogs. They were a 5 seed. And they were not supposed to sweep in the first round the Pacers. They swept them. But they were not supposed to go up 3-0 against the best regular season team in the Milwaukee Bucks with the back-to-back MVP Giannis and with the Defensive Player of the Year Giannis. So we were not supposed to beat that team in 5 games. And the Heat are not even supposed to be up 2-1 in the conference finals. 2 games away from the NBA final. Like, people are starting to talk, the Heat versus the Lakers in the finals. And I'm just like, I cannot believe this is a reality. Yeah. Like, as a Heat fan, I knew.
This is something I just said as a Heat. Oh, yeah, Heat Lakers in the finals. But this is July 2019.
But to see
I said it. But
it actually be a realistic thing. Realistic. And the thing that Vegas is favoring, right? The odds right now, the Heat are, favored. Of course, they were when they were up 2-0. But the fact that we're in this situation, up 2-1 in the finals, no one expected this. So being up 2-0, it would have been extremely shocking to see Boston not show up.
Yeah,
For the Heat to sweep the first round against the Pacers, who
makes sense. They had Sabonis.
No, I wasn't even to say the sweep. I had them winning in 5 games. That was one of the only things. And like just the sweep just showed they mean business this postseason. Then to go up 3-0 on the number 1 team on Milwaukee and nearly sweep them. Really, that game 4 could have gone a different way with a few calls and would have been 8 straight games, 8 straight wins. And then they go up 2-0 now. Okay, so to see this happen, 10-1 was very impressive, but to go 11-1 would have been ridiculous. This Boston team isn't the same as Milwaukee or Indiana, and this Boston team was not going to just lay down and let the Heat go up 3-0. That would be embarrassing. So just really quickly though, Alex, that 2-0 lead allowed the Heat to not panic in this situation. They had 5 chances to win 2 games. Okay, so you missed the first chance in game 3. They need to either win game 4 or 5, lose 1 and win 1, and then they'll have either game 6 or game 7. But they'll have both of those as an opportunity to close the series out. So there's no need to freak out, in my opinion.
Of course, and definitely there's more pressure on Boston. Even after the Heat blew game 3, Boston right now going into game 4, it's either 3-1 or 2-2. It's either a 3-game series or you're going to have to win 3 straight. So that's a huge difference for Boston.
All right, Alex, so I do not think the Heat need to be worried. But let's get into what happened in game 3. Why don't let's talk about our takeaways and going into game 4, what do the Heat need to do? What do the Celtics need to do to win that game?
My first takeaway, John, similar to kind of what you just outlined there a little bit, but games like this on the Heat side of things are why you build up a 2-0 cushion. The Heat could not have played any worse. They shot 27% from 3. They shot overall 38% from the field. There was a stretch where during the game we missed, it was like 14 or 15 straight 3-pointers. So we went 15 straight threes where we just did not make any of them. Crowder was 2 for 10. He's been very hot during the playoffs. Goran Dragic, our scoring leader during the playoffs, was 2 for 10 overall. And he was 1 for 5 threes. Olynyk came in the game, was 0 for 6. So your team, you're the second best 3-point percentage in the league all season long. You're gonna get cold, of course. We were bound.
Live by the shot, die by the shot.
We were bound to have a game where we came back to earth a little bit, and definitely Dragic was. And of course, on the other side of things, let's give Boston credit. Their defense was incredible, as good as I've seen it, and they played lights out. Their big 4, as in Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, combined for 92 points. If those 4 guys are gonna give you 20 plus points each, they're gonna win. There's actually a stat. Jaylen Brown, whenever he scores 25 or more points, the Boston is, I think it was 15-1, so maybe now it's 16-1 because he had 26 points. His first really really good game versus the Heat. And of course, on top of this all, I'm not gonna dive into this too much, but the officiating didn't help either. There was a couple of calls that I was just very frustrated with. I'm sick of the refs rewarding Marcus Smart for all these BS tactics and the flopping and the non-basketball plays, but whatever. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's what he does.
That's what he does. And so that's my first takeaway from the game is, he really, we couldn't have played any worse. And the fact that towards the end of the game, I think we cut it to 6 or 7, was it? Mm-hmm. Remember where we got the flagrant foul call? We're going to have 2 free throws and the ball. And we really, it was very unlikely for us to make that comeback again. But the fact that, like I said, we played so poorly, almost couldn't have played any worse. And the fact that towards the end of the game, we kind of did make a little run, it was pretty big.
The Heat trailed the entire game. That was the first game of the playoffs where they trailed the entire game. Mm-hmm. And Boston had double-digit leads in games 1 and in game 2, right? And Miami came back to win both of those. So in game 3, they nearly did it. They cut it to 5 with 1 minute left. But like you said, Alex, 12 for 44 from 3. I think it's about 27% shooting for 3. If you shoot your regular season average of 38%, they would have made 5 more threes. They would have made 17 threes, and that's the game right there. So it's those shots they missed 100%. And just for game 4, like, they need to shoot better, of course, if they're going to win. And just one more thing, because you didn't touch on Jimmy yet, Alex, and I just wanted to talk about how Butler played. I have side by side his 3 different field goal percentages and his so like what he shot and his free throws per game too. So game 1, he was shot 7 for 14 and was 4 for 6 from the free throw line. Game 2, he was 4 for 11 and 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Game 3, 6 for 13 and he was 5 for 6 from the free throw line. In game 3. So for people that are thinking, oh, Jimmy needs to do more, he needs to shoot more, he needs to score more, like, that's just not what Jimmy does, and that's why, I mean, the mainstream media doesn't watch.
All those stats were essentially the same.
They're all nearly similar. And in game 2, and the one that we pulled away and we won, he was 4 for 11, and he made, so our star, that's how we play. Let me finish though. Our star, that's how we play. Like, he will make 5 field goals in the game, make 5 free throws, and the rest of our guys will come through and win. And that's why Dragic has been our leading scorer in this. Well, so one more quick thing though. He doesn't necessarily need to shoot more or shoot better or get to the free throw line more, any of that. He needs to bring the energy level up specifically at the start of the games, because it's not it's not going to be, you cannot keep on,
of course,
coming back from down 15 every single game. That's not sustainable, and that's why I think this little 3 to 4 day layover that we're going to have is going to be very, very big for us, to get our shooters to have some time off, to get Iguodala back, who didn't play in the second half of game 2 and the second half of game 3. But specifically on what I want to see from Jimmy is energy up in the beginning of these games. That's what LeBron does. He gets his guy going in the beginning. We need to get everyone up so that we're not down 15 in the first quarter.
I agree with you there. It definitely has to do with him as the leader of the team setting the tone early, and he even said it gets old trying to make these comebacks every game. Right. It really gets old,
and they're so good at it too.
So we have to make sure we don't start flat again, which we've done now 3 times.
Can't happen
3 games in a row. Mm-hmm. But I disagree with you with the other stuff. I think in games like this, when you can tell, we're not shooting as well. I mean, Duncan Robinson is really the only guy who was like making shots. Mm-hmm. But, even on the defensive end, he was struggling. So we were all struggling in different ways. This is a game where, and we saw Bam. This is why another takeaway for me from this game is Bam is the best player on the Heat. And I mean, that's not necessarily a hot take, but some people do think Jimmy. But I think if you really watch the Heat, Bam's our best player. He was the third player in Miami Heat playoff history to put up 25 plus points, 15 plus rebounds. He joined Shaq and LeBron, so pretty big deal. But Bam came to play today, and Bam was like the only thing that was saving us on defense. On defense, we struggled a ton when he was off the floor.
He's amazing.
Kelly Olynyk when he's in the game, and there was a few lineups where like Bam just wasn't on, and when Bam's not on the floor, it just makes me look at our team and be like, wow, where's the defense? Where's the offense? Like, it's just, he does so much on both sides that he's huge for us. But going back to Jimmy needs to really embrace obviously the leadership role that he has and set the tone early. And I'm sure that's what they're gonna do. One more thing to touch on. Obviously, that was Goran Dragic's probably his worst game of the playoffs. He was also minus 29 in the plus minus. I think, and someone who he's a point guard who's 34 years old. He's been playing lights out for a month now in the playoffs. It's going to be big for him to have, I think we have 3 days off now. We're playing on Wednesday. So 3 days off. I'm glad. I think it's going to benefit the Heat tremendously. And then one more thing about the Celtics. So the zone, and I want to ask you this question. In the game 2, the zone defense was the big revelation. Everyone's like, oh, Boston didn't know what to do on this zone D. The Heat were able to hide their weaker defenders. And it just totally threw Boston off. And in this game, you could see they figured it out. They were moving the ball. They had like 17 assists, they had 27 assists, it's pretty solid. They scored 18 points there was 18 zone possessions the Heat ran. So they clearly figured it out. So what do you see? What do you think the Heat should do going forward defensively? Should we still use the zone? Do you blame that loss more on just our offensive incompetence, or did Boston figure out the zone? Now we have to change something.
Well,
what's
listen,
going to happen?
I do not know all the different ideas that Coach Spo has in his head, and at the end of the day, he could have one idea or have watched Game 3 in a certain way where he realized they need to do less zone or more zone or whatever it may be. However, I think you gotta stick with it for now. That's just from what I've watched. In Game 2, the Celtics were off to that early lead. Of course, the Heat were trailing, and because Coach Spo changed into the zone defense after running man, that's what led the Heat to come back and make that run to get back into the game.
It was an adjustment,
eventually win it.
Adjustment.
So we've seen him make that adjustment already. I think that you got to keep going with it. I know Gordon Hayward being thrown in there changed some stuff up a little bit, adding an extra shooter that we have to respect a little bit more.
Playmaker. I mean, he can pass the ball as great as anyone on that team.
Yeah, an extra playmaker, scorer that we respect a little bit more than maybe Marcus Smart shooting, who's still been shooting way better than he usually does. But I think for now, the Heat probably got to stick with that D. And I just think the main takeaway from this game is the Heat were a little bit spent. And that's why I think these days off are going to be really huge for them to come back and shoot better in the next game. But to go to that point, Alex, who do you think is going to benefit more from this little 4-day layoff? So the last game was Saturday night. They're going to have they had all of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then all of Wednesday, and the game's at night on Wednesday night. So who do you think benefits the most from that?
I think it's definitely both teams will benefit. I mean, Boston, they just played a 7-game series, so of course them getting a few extra days off is going to help their bodies too and recover. But given that the Heat, if you look at our best players, we have more older guys that could use. I guess I'm mostly thinking of Dragic.
And Iguodala.
He's been playing incredible, but Dragic just had his worst game. So now
he's 34 years old too. 34. To see him leading our team in scoring at that age is
and he really did look flat. Of course, I want to give Boston's defense a ton of credit because I think Boston's defense is what won them the game because they were better offensively. They moved the ball, but they had a ton of fast break points, which was because the most in the series so far because they were able to. There was 3 plays in a row. I think in the third or fourth quarter, where it was just turnover, and they just kept getting out and fast break dunks.
Yes, too many. Jaylen Brown, then Jason Tatum again, and then it was just there was 3 straight plays it felt like where that happened.
So John, what do you foresee to happen in Game 4?
So Game 4, which we already pretty much touched on, I think we're gonna see, and what we need to see from Jimmy for us to win is coming out with the energy early, not getting down early. And, of course, even if the Heat do get down 10 points early, we know that they're capable of coming back. We've seen them do it in so many playoff games already this postseason. But if the Heat want to go up 3-1 in this series, which would be huge, because I think at that point, then you're going to tell Boston, now you got to beat this Heat team 3 times in a row. That's up 3. That. I think that's series.
We have to play like this. Our season depends on this game.
Yes. It has to be this is an elimination game because that's what we've done the whole season. That's what got them so pumped up during this playoff run in the bubble. It's the fact that they were the underdogs. They're not supposed to be here. They're not supposed to do it. Now they're up 2-0 going into the finals, and people are starting to say, at least I heard Bill Simmons said this, there's 0-4 Pistons potential to upset the Lakers with this team. The Lakers that year had Kobe and Shaq, and of course we're a very well-rounded team that we're deeper than the Lakers, of course, but we do not have stars like LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But the fact that that's even that narrative's out, I just think adds a little bit of complacency. Whether or not you think, oh yeah, we're the toughest team, guys, we're down 2-0, you're saying that in the pregame huddle, regardless of whether that's happening or not, in the back of your head, your subconscious tells you that. So, and our friends are making fun of us when we were saying, oh no, we want you guys to win this game to humble us. We want us to be more hungry. It's true. You want your team at least have one loss. And like I started off my little monologue at the beginning, there has been a deficiency of adversity in this postseason.
John, with that,
so I'm glad we're finally, oh my gosh, we just lost this game. We need to, we're not up 3-0 in the series.
With that being said, definitely when I look back at the playoffs, we've lost 2 games now, but this is the first loss that we've had that's really of consequence. When you're up 3-0 and you lose Game 4 and it's a close game too, and Giannis was out, you come out in Game 5 and there's not as much pressure on the Heat to close that out because you overwhelm. There's not a ton of adversity.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
With Boston now, you win Game 3 and if they can come out and perform in Game 4, now you go from being up 2-0 to all right, now it's a 3-game series. Mm-hmm. So. It's the first time that we're really being tested, in my opinion, for this Game 4, and I think our guys live for this and they love it, and we're gonna see a great performance from the Heat. And so, John, before we move on to the fantasy corner and then our safe bets, what do you think Boston has to do to win? Because I know we stay a little bit Miami Heat centric over here on Double Take. So what does Boston have to do to win this game?
So. Going into the series, it was definitely, that's what I was saying is, who's their guy going to be, who's their closer going to be. And we saw Kemba hit some important shots at the end of games 1 and 2, Tatum, etc. And they have a lot of, talented guys. They're so talented from their first 4 guys. And now Hayward coming back as well. So what needs to happen for them to win is they need to find a closer because I'm I'm just going to go on a guess here. I do not believe that this game will be the blowout that Game 3 was. I'm anticipating a closer game. Game 4 that would be more similar to Games 1 and 2. So if Boston's going to close out, which they were not able to do in Games 1 and 2, they need one of their guys to step up and be the closer. And in our last episode, Alex, you outlined all of Tatum's possessions in that fourth quarter and overtime.
It was game 1.
Game 1.
We talked about Tatum was 0 for 7 in the last 6 minutes and in overtime.
Exactly.
So Tatum shrank.
So that's fine. If Tatum's not that guy, Kemba needs to be hitting the shots. If it's not Kemba, then it needs to be Tatum, or it needs to be Brown, or someone. Brown almost helped them complete that cutting it down in game two. He hit two straight threes, and he was about to hit that third one, but he missed, which was a good look, which would have tied the game. But they need one of those guys to do it. Because if it's a close game, we've seen the Heat pull out games. We've seen Bam with the block. We've seen Butler hit important shots. We've seen Dragic do it. And Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero, our 20-year-old phenom, could also hit a very important game-winning three-pointer or free throws or whatever he needs to do. So we've seen that from a lot of guys in the Heat. If it's a close game, Boston needs someone to pull it out. Mm-hmm. Because the only way so far they've won this series, the only game they won was the blowout in Game 3. So we'll see what happens. Either I think the Heat are going to shoot very well and do what they did in Game 1 and 2, pull out a close game. Or I think Boston, one of their guys, is going to have to step up and pull away with it.
Okay, John. Now, Fantasy Corner. Week 2 of the NFL, almost in the books tonight. The Saints are playing the Raiders for Monday Night Football, but...
In Vegas, finally. Wow.
Yeah. Vegas is their first game in Las Vegas in that new stadium. But, John, this weekend we saw a ton of notable injuries. Christian McCaffrey went down. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with an ankle injury. I know you had him in fantasy.
Yes, I did.
Saquon Barkley tore his ACL.
Out for the season.
Nick Bosa tore his ACL.
Well, I don't know if they say ACL.
Yeah, they said it was
Bosa?
likely. It was likely that was an ACL. I didn't see that was confirmed yet, but yeah, I think it was very likely. Cortland
Sutton tore his ACL too.
Tore his ACL.
Well, I just traded David Johnson, who's the Texans running back. I swapped him for Sutton, and right away tears his ACL before I can even play him.
You hate to see it, but before we get into the fantasy talk, what do you think is going on here, John? I mean, is it a coincidence that all these players in week 2 are all going down with injuries? Yeah. Is it because maybe there was no preseason? What are your thoughts?
So I got to shout out my fantasy and my NFL guru, Kirk Carlson. He's one of our friends from high school. He's huge on the NFL, and one thing I was talking about with him was the way they didn't have preseason. They didn't have the training camps as long, and because of that, these guys' bodies just aren't ready to be going full-fledged Sunday night football, all the way. It's the big moment, and they have to be playing, giving it their all. Their bodies just weren't ready for the contact that suddenly, that abruptly. So I mean, we've seen seasons that have been plagued with injury before. I remember there was a few years ago where there was a bunch of quarterbacks that were out. But this season, the fact it's week 2 and so many notable guys are it seems like they're going to be out for the season, or at least for McCaffrey 4 to 6 weeks. I don't think it's crazy to say there's a correlation between that and COVID, and the fact that because COVID, there was no preseason and shorter training camps, etc. And it just, as a fan, we were seeing this season, and with we're not going to the games, and they're not showing the empty stadiums too much with the camera shots, but it feels like truly normal that football is happening right now, and it's kind of to the extent where you wouldn't even know there's a pandemic. That you see some masks on the sideline, the referees wearing masks, and you see the empty stadiums, but they're pumping in the noise. I have 3 different fantasy teams. It seems like the NFL season as usual. So this is just a reminder to us that there's still some extreme circumstances that the NFL season is operating under.
And uncertainty around this season.
Right.
We're unsure of. Who knows? I mean, right now they've been good with the corona cases, but in the next 5 months, I'm sure I would be surprised if there wasn't maybe not a huge outbreak, but some notable guys maybe being out. So there's that aspect, of course. And these injuries who have already hit the league, so it's definitely going to be a very unusual season, John. Mm-hmm. Okay, now fantasy corner. Who we're gonna do players of the week, disappointments of the week, John. Why don't you start with disappointments and then give me your player?
So I'd have to go with my Christian McCaffrey injury, and this is a keeper league, so I'm not gonna. It'd be stupid to just trade him away for nothing. He's gonna be gone for 4 to 6 weeks. He will still come back, and hopefully my team can not lose too many games by the time he comes back and still make the playoffs, but losing your number one guy, especially when I had the number one pick in a 14-team league. So I didn't get to pick another player until pick,
28?
28,
Yeah.
28 and 29 because 14 players and it's a snake draft. So for me, and then guess who my number 2 pick was? Now I can get into my players of the week. Leonard Fournette, who would have been my disappointment of the week if I had to bring that up. But he had 27 points on my bench. So hopefully the Tampa Bay Buccaneers...
Wait, you didn't play him?
I did not play him.
Oh,
No. It's fine. It's fine. I wanted him to do that on my bench because
right.
he's supposed to have last week he had 4. They didn't really play that much. But the fact that he was able to give them 2 touchdowns, 100+ yards, this hopefully bodes well for them in the coming weeks. And hopefully, I know Brady's not going to throw to him. He's not really a reception getting back. But hopefully they'll go to him more when they need, to run for a few yards, and he'll be more useful for me in fantasy right now while CMC is on my IR.
Yeah.
So that was my disappointment. Then again, my player of the week, I had to say Leonard Fournette, even though he was on my bench. But then, one more player, Sunday Night Football, Chris Carson has been absolutely electric. So great to have him. I was down 15 points going in. He was my last player, and the team I was playing against had no one left. And I was down 15 points. He was projected to have 13, so it could have gone anyway, and he gave me 20. So I won by 5 points, 120 to 115. That was my clutch man of the week, Chris Carson. Alex, who are your players of the week and your disappointments of the week?
So let me start with my disappointment of the week. My disappointment of the week is myself. John, maybe this is the first year I'm in 3 leagues. Maybe 3 is too many.
I was just going to say
maybe
that.
I'm too distracted with the NBA playoffs. I don't know, but I've just, looking back, yesterday as I was looking at the scoreboards, there was just so many little mistakes that I made. For one, I played Joe Mixon over James Conner. James Conner had 20 points. Mixon had, a paltry 12. Disappointing 12. I had Devontae Parker on my bench, which, he's not the best guy, but I feel like I want to trust in my Dolphins, and I don't have great receivers. I think that was the same league that I had, Jarvis Landry in, and he's been underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So, disappointment myself. I need to do a better job from a managerial perspective. Players of the week, shout out to our Boston College alum, Matt Ryan. He had 28.5 points. Even though they had a very disappointing loss.
Heartbreaking loss. Poor Atlanta.
Really, just awful. They're just a meme at this point. Go back to that Super Bowl all those years ago.
28-3, they were leading.
This pathetic.
And now 20-0 in the first quarter.
To the freaking Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So Matt Ryan.
Cowboys are talented though. They're too talented.
A kicker, surprisingly, another guy that's a player of the week for me is Young Hoku. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but we just say Young Hoku. That's what it sounds like. 17 points as a kicker. So, and he, of course, I think I picked him up off waivers or whatever. But he's definitely going to be my guy for the foreseeable future.
And I want to talk about this kicker thing because my kicker, I took Justin Tucker, I want to say in the 9th or 10th round maybe. He's one of the first kickers to go.
Bro.
But still,
so high.
I think it's so valuable to have a good kicker. To give me 16 points, to have a guy that's going to consistently get you. I had Greg DeLeg 2 seasons ago, Greg Zuerlein, the year that with the Rams offense was just insane. And every week he would give me 17 points. To have that from a kicker from a slot that most people are getting 5 to 10 from is huge, and it's a difference maker a lot of times. And I wanted to bring this up because our friend and someone that we mention a lot on this podcast, Eli Maluhi, is deciding to go with a different strategy, and he just doesn't like having a kicker on his roster at all. So he drafted all flex guys, running backs, wide receivers. He has a quarterback, of course, tight ends, but just didn't take a kicker. And his logic is, if I need a kicker by the afternoon, if I see that my team is going to lose by 10 points maybe, then I'll just pick one up. So then it was funny because then, our other friend Peter, who was playing against him, was like, everyone go pick up all the kickers. So Eli picked up Zane Gonzalez, actually, who's the Cardinals kicker, who gave him 13 points, and which ended up happening. But I just think it's weird. Kickers, I love, and it's the same with tight ends. I feel like a lot of times, not having a good tight end, they give you 4, 5, 6 points. Having a good tight end is huge. It's very valuable.
This year, there was a lot of good tight ends late in the draft.
Yeah,
just guys who were not a lot of people thought they could be amazing, but they had a high ceiling for the season. I think I said last week T.J. Hawkinson was my guy.
Yeah,
and awesome. I got him late. So and
same for me. Noah Fant for Denver. I think he's after the first 2 weeks, he's a top 3 tight end. Mm-hmm. He's been awesome.
All right, safe bets of the week, John. Let me give you mine first. So I'm looking at this, and I know now we can actually do some NFL games if we want. And I'm looking, the next two NBA games are either, the Lakers in Game 3 -6.5, or Boston in Game 4 -2.5. I would probably, if I had to pick one of those, I'd probably go with the Nuggets, just because I feel like they're due for a win. I don't anticipate the Lakers going up 3-0. I think the Nuggets will be super fired up after that loss. But I also don't feel super confident about that, and I'm not going to jinx the Heat by picking them. So I'm actually going to go with an NFL football game. I'm going to go tonight, Monday Night Football, the Saints -4 in Las Vegas. It's Las Vegas' first game in the new stadium. I know, I'm sure that, that's a little extra motivation.
I don't know if I love that.
You want to go out with a win. Or you want to go, bring in the new arena with a win, but I just think the Saints are too good. I didn't watch Las Vegas last week, but I don't really trust them.
Alex, Michael Thomas being injured is not going to help. And I know you might see a big game from Kamara, from Breeze, but
I actually have Kamara too. I'm projected to tie with someone and have Kamara coming in. So
that's why you're doing this.
But I'm going to pick the Saints -4 because I think they're also a team who's like very motivated and hungry. And I think they're the type of team that say like, oh yeah, they're in this new stadium. I don't care. Let's give them a loss. Give them a loss in the new.
We'll
so
see.
I'm Saints -4.
I like that bet. Don't love it. I had to go. I'm also going with football. Had to go with our Miami Dolphins, who we're rebuilding this year. I love that we're not playing Tua yet. Let's let Fitzmagic take all the hits and the heat right now. Tua will, learn under his wing, and hopefully by the mid-season, towards the end of the season, he can play. And then next year, he'll have his Patrick Mahomes MVP season in his second season, of course. But I'm going with the Dolphins +3 Thursday night versus Jacksonville. And this is like the little tanking for Trevor Florida game, because coming into the season, the Jacksonville Jaguars were the favorite to tank and should be the worst team in the league, and to tank for Trevor Lawrence. And Gardner Minshew's just too good. Last week didn't let them do that. They're 1-0 in a game, I think it was versus the Colts, but no one thought they would win. They weren't favored in. And then again, they nearly beat the Titans this week. Yeah. The Titans are a good team. A good team that should probably make the playoffs, right? And they only lost by 3 points. I think it was tied 30-30 at the end of the game, and the Titans win on a field goal. So right now, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be who's going to be more of a winning factor for these not great teams. Coach Flores or Gardner Minshew. I think Coach Flores is going to get us the win, and we're getting points because the Jacksonville is favored by 3. So I'll take the 3 points, and I think pretty soon the GM, the owner, whoever, someone's going to have a talk with the coach of the Jaguars and say, listen, guys, we're trying to blow this up. We traded Fournette. We traded everyone away. We're not trying to be good right now, so we can lose Thursday night versus the Dolphins. So that's what I'm going with.
They're tanking for Trevor. I mean, we're not tanking for Trevor, John. We already got Tua, so no, it's not the Florida tank game for Trevor.
Hey, listen, I wouldn't mind having both of them, see who plays better.
That would be fun. That would be fun for a 2021 training camp. Trevor versus Tua.
Yeah,
I like
beautiful.
That. All right, John. That wraps it up for this week. As always, thank you guys for listening. We're probably going to have an episode after Game 4 of the Heat versus Celtics, and that will, so we'll see you by the end of the week. But thank you everyone for listening. Have a good one. Go Heat.